Hello and welcome everyone to the first ever inaugural episode of Working Title Beyond the Red Zone. This is Revolution podcast sports show that I've been talking about for so long. Finally launching it. Is this a soft launch? I think this is what they define as a soft launch. We didn't have a lot of build-up, so I apologize for that. Usually, as you know with the show, I make these little clips, let you know what the show is going to be about. But I've been caught up making clips of the show, video essays. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, but that's why I always say, if you like what you see here, please hit like, please hit subscribe, and definitely hit the bell so you're constantly notified whenever we go live. Because as you see, like days like today, you never know when we're going to go live and add new shows. So let me bring in my co-host, my other homie, my other dog. He is no longer the only black man in Maine. He is one of many, oh so many colored folks in Northern Virginia. He is Marcus of the Left Flank Bets.
Yo, what's up? Many. You know, I gotta say, I was like Beyond the Red Zone. I was like, damn, this motherfucker is naming shit. That's a good name. I like that name. I like as soon as you said it, I was like, that boy good.
Yeah, I have to clear the sample. So I went for a run to try to clear my head because originally I was going to make this video. But basically, I'm going to read a script that's going to be a very short video essay that'll probably drop first thing in the morning. I'll be working on it tonight. And I was trying to find a name, and Marcus and I both blank. We're at some interesting phases in our lives and our careers. So creative names, we're just blanked, right? We're just drawing a blank. And in all fairness, if you've watched the show enough, the man that actually came up with the title of this show, which is a song lyric of mine, he had to remind me, hey, Jason, you got this really cool song lyric. Why don't you make your show this song lyric? This is Revolution. So Mike Cobra came on the show even. So I'm not good with titles and names. And so I hit up Teray Reed. We were talking and we get off the phone. And last one, I'm like, fuck, Teray, give me a name title. Give me a title. And he's like, motherfucker, I got real professor shit to do. And so I then
you do not.
I call up my lady friend, who is a huge football fan. I need to share with you, Marcus, the messages that she sent me while she was watching the game. You are a fan. And we're trying to think of titles. And she goes, what does it have to be? I was like, well, we're like leftists, but we don't want to make it seem too over the top. And she threw out some names, and then she goes, Beyond the Red Zone. I was like, ooh, it's good.
It's good.
Damn. Good.
Yes.
I was like, round of applause.
Well, it's good. Then, like, I don't feel bad that you, because, like, if you were thinking, I was like, damn, this motherfucker is like better than me. God, again, you know. But it's someone else.
Someone else. I had to, dude. You don't understand. Originally, it said TIR presents sports show.
Sports. His sports show for left.
Sports show. That's all it was sports show.
Yeah.
But the impetus for this show that really made me want to do this, I've been mentioning it for a while, but what really made me want to kick it into high gear and actually do it was relocating down here to Mexico. My phone died and I had to listen to whatever was on the radio. And FM radio changes too much when you're on long drives. So AM stays pretty good. Actually, when I'm driving back to the Bay Area, I don't have to change the radio station until I'm about an hour and a half from home. And I live 8 hours, or I'm from 8 hours from here, 520 miles. So I had on this AM station and I haven't listened to sports radio in forever, you know? And I knew it always had a bit of a right-wing tinge to it, but I didn't realize how over the top it had gotten in all of its rhetoric. So I was like, we really have to do this because there's enough people that watch our show that also are sports fans, and let's talk about the goings on in the sporting world.
Sports ball.
Let's talk about sports ball and some other things that are affected by sports. Marcus is a huge sports fan, and I think he's mildly excited because while he is not from Cincinnati, which is in Southern Ohio,
who they? No, and yeah.
You are from the Columbus area, and you have to feel kind of good that your state is being represented in a Super Bowl for the third time.
This is where I'm. It's like this weird thing where there's people I'm happy for,
Joe Burrow, Ohio State, his first year.
Yeah. And but I'm also Von Miller, he's gonna be playing on the other side. So there's I enjoy seeing Ohio State names, but actually just even if having this for Cincinnati, and especially there's a lot of people who I grew up with who were probably in tears. Actually, there's there's
Aww.
So I mean it's always good, and it feels nice. It feels nice. And especially too, it's the history of the Bengals or the Browns, it's not always been stellar, if I can be as polite as possible.
No.
So yeah, it's good to see someone other than the fucking Patriots at the end of the day too. So
look, there's a lot of storylines in the championship game. I was look at football as storylines at this point, right? Because I think people forget when you watch the credits roll, you should always look at writer as a credit. You watch football because there's a storyline in all the games, and there's one with Kansas City. Is this a burgeoning superpower in football? Is Mahomes the new thing, or is he Donovan McNabb 2.0 in that Andy Reid system? Will Kansas City be kind of like the Browns, one of those teams that unlike the Browns, they actually have a Super Bowl title, but constantly get to the dance but can't get to the Super Bowl? And then you have the Niners. Can they get 6? Was this the great move for the Rams to trade a young quarterback for an older, I wouldn't say washed up, but just an older veteran? That's kind of a rare move you see, because I never felt that Goff's ability wasn't there. I think that team went through a bit of a metamorphosis when Gurley went away, and I don't think Stafford adds that much more extra, because I always felt like Stafford and Goff are very similar players. I don't know if you disagree.
No, but I think there's something to be said with I mean, at the end of the day, most quarterbacks aren't that quote unquote good, most of the quarterbacks don't make it into the names of hey, this person's consistent and can hit it every time.
Yeah.
And sometimes just saying just going with a player that's been kind of okay or mediocre beforehand, with a little bit more experience in the NFL, it just might be worth doing it.
I mean, Detroit is where quarterbacks' careers have historically gone to die. And it's not a place that you can leave and then get better, because you generally have taken a beating probably for at least 3 years, right?
Yeah, but is the
long,
Rams
Chuck Long,
yeah,
Joey Harrington, who else got this shit beat out of him? Rodney Peete, Andre Ware. I mean, you were just gonna get the shit kicked out of you in Detroit.
Yeah.
There was a short run with Scott Mitchell and Barry Sanders where they went to the playoffs and were okay for a few years, but that was also the years where they had a pretty decent defense. The Bears weren't that great during that era as well, during the mid 90s, early 90s. But sending Goff to Detroit, you just shake your head. You're like, damn, man, maybe that kid's got one more contract in him. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe it's something with the Rams. Like if you could take Kurt Warner out of a fucking grocery store and make him something, maybe you take him out of, Matthew Stafford out of Detroit. Anything's possible.
It looks like it was the right decision. I mean, I always feel like too, when you get these guys that have been in really bad teams, they make really dumb mistakes. Like again, I am a huge Denver Bronco fan, and I remember we got Jake Plummer, and I was actually very excited for that acquisition. But I also remember that Jake Plummer would do things like, throw a pass left-handed at the goal line to avoid a sack or a safety, and then goes for a touchdown because you're so used to being the only guy and getting your ass kicked that you just do some silly shit. Stafford's silly shit has been somewhat at a minimum. I do think having Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. helps, and then to go ahead and get Von Miller while he's still got something to prove. Like I think before Aaron Donald gets to him, I think Von Miller is going to beat the dog shit out of Joe Burrow.
That's my question, right? For me, that's it right there. Is like as far as like what happens at the Super Bowl is like is and this is I think a very common thing, But if the quarterback gets hit early. Mm-hmm. You take a good hit in the first quarter, that could really throw off a game. And that's where, too, of like having a quarterback that's gotten his ass kicked in Stafford, this is like the Rocky Balboa effect.
I don't hear no bell.
Is it good that they're taking punches? No, but he can take it. And so, I think that's going to be really like the key to the game, which, I don't know how.
Imagine how good Barry Sanders would have been if he would have been on the Cowboys during those years and not the Lions. He would have had every record imaginable. That's from Robert Booth. Robert, I will add you this. If you remember Barry Sanders, the year he retired, I think he was supposed to be on the cover of Madden or something like that. I can't remember what year it was off the top of my head. 96, 97? Or was it 98? Can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe it was in 2000. But that year, he was set to break Walter Payton's record. He was healthy. And we were all waiting for it. And he doesn't. He retires. Emmitt Smith ends up breaking it.
Yeah.
And I don't think Emmitt Smith ever ran for 2,000 yards in that Dallas system. And Barry ran for 2,000. Most of his career, he played without tight ends. If you remember, they were playing the run, and this might be before your time, Marcus.
Yeah.
They had a coach where they were playing something called the run and shoot.
Run and shoot.
The run and shoot. And imagine he had no fullback.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like when I was a kid, that was towards the end of Barry Sanders' career. It's like when I was like actually like watching football and like formulating fucking memories and shit like that. But I mean, like that makes sense. There's like it always just him just dancing.
He'll lose 5, but he'll gain 20. That was the Barry Sanders effect. He'll lose 5 and he'll gain 20. So I all in all, as much as I wanted to see, and I hate the Niners. I'm a Bay native. I hate the Raiders a lot. Not a Niner fan, but because of the Shanahan connection in Denver, I was like, it would be nice to see another Niners-Bengals Super Bowl, the first ever teams to play each other 3 times. That would be pretty damn cool to see, but I think there's an interesting storyline. Now we have the second year in a row where the team that's hosting the stadium that's hosting the Super Bowl, the home team is there. That's very interesting because that had never really happened before. The Matt Stafford story.
Wait, this is the second time, right, that's happened?
In a row.
Yeah.
The Bucks last year and now the Rams this year. Like, that's insane. And also, I think I put this on our show notes, none of the home field teams advanced or to the Super Bowl. That was like the big deal this year, that there can be only one team was going to have home field. It wasn't like usually is where there's the first two teams, the first two seeds get
now,
home field
and probably not for the playoffs. Because I'm like asking, it's like, does like COVID have anything to do? It's like, it was any like the stadiums, you know, empty or like less full, you know, like is there less of a home field advantage? But like, I mean, I'm pretty sure like every stadium was like open up, right? Like
they were packed, even if there were rules and regulations and you got to have vaccine shit. Someone says it's been a trash playoff year for home teams. It has been and I can't explain why that is.
I'm trying. Like I was trying to force COVID through, but it doesn't work. And like I don't know, you know.
Last year, I'll give you that last year because empty games. I remember being able to hear the calls at the line, the checks at the line. I think that made a difference. There was a point where I remember one game I could hear Phillip Rivers in the huddle.
Oh shit!
So I'm sure the defense heard. So I'm sure sign stealing was on a whole nother level last year. I think the NBA suffered somewhat with that title that the Lakers won. Maybe you should put an asterisk by it, and if we do have time, we'll talk about asterisks and titles. But someone asked earlier who is TIR repping for the Super Bowl, and I have no dog in the fight. I'm actually excited to watch a very, very good game, but I do think the Rams defense is just gonna punish Joe Burrow. Kansas City's defense is soft.
Yeah, no, and I mean I would love to see Cincinnati get it. You know, there's someone like I haven't talked to in years that like if they did, I definitely have to I gotta call this dude. I gotta call this dude's number. But yeah, no, I agree, and I think honestly there's gonna be, you know, second drive for the Bengals, you know, and it's just, you know, you get a hit in, and then it's gonna be shaky for a quarter or two. Not going to be able to bounce back. That's my guess. So it's not. I don't think like what sucks. Like I don't think it's going to be like that crazy of a high score or anything like that. Which like not a lot of playoffs have been, but you know,
I predict it's going to be 24-10 Rams. That's my prediction.
24-10. I'm thinking like 17-10.
You think it's going to be that low?
Low and just people can like just beat up and then like just not, you know, like really like get in the end zone, you know.
If the Bengals can find a way to get Joe Mixon in the game and to get their tight ends in the game, I think that could be the shocker, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is an interesting offensive game plan. But I think the Rams are too powerful. They were out all their tight ends. The backup tight end kind of dominated that game against the Niners. And the Niners have a very good defense. Very good defense.
And I don't know if like how scientific this is, but I feel like a lot of Super Bowls are kind of boring. They're kind of boring games. More often than not, Super Bowls end up being kind of boring games, and I don't think that this was going to break out and to be into anything like we've seen actually within the playoffs for the past few weeks.
Mm-hmm. The playoffs, I think it's great. I can't lie, dude. I get the games here in Mexico, and even with the play-by-play in Spanish, they have been exciting. I'm sure my neighbor's like, why does that guy keep screaming all the time? Like these games are fucking amazing to watch. So. And football numbers are up. The numbers of the viewership is up, and I think it's all because of the Black Lives Matter paraphernalia.
I bet you motherfucker. I bet it is 100%. It's that, you know, that you get that ID poll, you get that branding. You know what I'm saying? Show black people we care, we see you, we hear you.
I mean, when I see Tom Brady with his helmet that says like eliminate racism or it takes all of us.
Yeah.
Whenever I see it takes all of us, then I'm like, A, you're a leader. You're probably white. And the next helmet's going to say ally.
Yeah.
Ally.
That's it. That's it.
That's the winner.
I'm an ally.
And it has to be in pink. Like for breast cancer awareness, I'm an ally for women, for Negroes, for DACA recipients.
I'm gonna love when like it's gonna be like mental health awareness month. Like as you're having given these grown ass men just just absolute fucking terrible brain damage. It'll be great. It'll be fucking fantastic. Some big pharmaceutical company will sponsor the whole thing.
Like whenever I see a game, and it's in college too, and the end zone says like end racism. I feel like the NFL they put that out there and they go, oh, got that all squared away.
Yeah, no, check. I mean, and like they would not be wrong to feel that way. DC did it.
Is that still you're down there? Is that still there? That big fucking BLM is still on the street?
The large painted mural of Black Lives Matter on the street is no longer there. They have made it permanent. It is now in concrete.
Interesting. That actually leads me to something I wanted to discuss today. So what we want to do on this show is we're definitely going to recap certain sporting events. We're definitely going to recap different sports. Someone said we're going to talk basketball. We will be talking basketball, and we're only going to talk about the Golden State Warriors. So if you ever want to talk about any other teams, sorry, not going to happen. We're just going to talk about all those light-skinned ex-players' kids that hit threes from out of the arena. That's all we're going to talk about. And Gary Payton's son, because he's not as light as the rest of those three-point shooting motherfuckers.
Oh man, he's about to call Sammy Sosa. Hook it up.
Sammy Sosa pulled a Michael Jackson that made Michael Jackson come out of the grave and say, "Nigga, what?"
Like that shit. He looks like salmon, dog. Oh, fuck.
Sammy Sosa. I didn't think that shit was real. I thought that was some sort of internet shit. And there was a ESPN thing with him and Mark McGwire talking about that year. Was it 98? Yeah. The home run chase?
Yeah, something like that.
Great year for baseball. And again, I do want to get into this era. Hopefully we'll have time to cover it today. But there's, they're interviewing Sammy Sosa. I'm like, what did he do?
What did he do? So
who told him? Like, how many yes men are around you where it's like you come back from the doc? Look, I live in a country where cats come here for cheap plastic surgery. I see a lot of people, mostly women, with plastic ass surgery, titties to their chin, asses that they don't belong to. Like, where'd you know that ass ain't yours, lady?
That thing's about to fall out the bottom.
That shit is about to fall right out of your pants. Horrible. So who told him that injecting, however he got it done, I don't know the process. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and act like I know or care about it. But when he came out from the first treatment, they should have been like, "Oh, Sammy, do you have eczema or something? Like, what's wrong with you? What's this, psoriasis? What is this?"
Yeah.
Like, don't go back. Just be black. It's okay. You remember Jerry Curl Sammy?
Yeah, it's sad. I'll say that though. It's sad, isn't it? It's sad. Like, this motherfucker.
He's not hiding.
He internalized and then externalized the white supremacy, and I feel bad.
I would be walking around like the fucking Invisible Man with like shit around. Fucking Elephant Man. Why does he never leave his? I can never leave my home. for I have failed you and my people with this botched surgery job.
Yes.
I don't know why Sammy Sosa talks like
Oh man, yeah,
British man.
Feel bad.
Posh British. All my impersonations are posh British men. Deal with it. But I do want to hit on something that we joke about, and I've been talking about with Marcus for a while, and that is activism in sports as a brand.
Mhm.
And there is one player in particular that I think I don't know if he sets off the trend, but I don't know if we talk about the moment that much. And that person is Colin Kaepernick. Would you say Colin Kaepernick is still a bit of a polarizing figure, Marcus?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think there's an agreement in the left that he's just an ally?
Which this was just like the left, depending on who you're counting. I feel like there's a large segment of the left that says, hey, a lot like when he first took the knee, I feel like there's probably a large segment of people who consider them socialist communists that were just like, I don't give a shit. This is a rich motherfucker taking a knee amongst other rich motherfuckers, and it's making money for other rich and kind of check out and like. But I think that regardless, like there is like absolutely like people who said like this is at the very least something that is in the step of the right direction. Some of the people just generally see as good versus not saying and or doing, and it's something that I think we see with like left media is the idea that popularity equals the responsibility to lead. And I think that's something where a lot of people were happy because Kaepernick had a platform to which to speak, and he did use it in a way that was on the right side of history during the times, like what, like literally just even saying like, hey, we are just going to say something about it. But I think we got to ask ourselves, it's like, should we be looking to, football players who are playing the game currently, as to be like, oh, they're, doing this one thing, and now that associates, some type of like leadership value to whatever they're doing, or even, like a really tangible benefit that it created. Because I mean, he did a thing, and I don't know if there's any results like from it.
We got in racism on a helmet. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to say something, and then I would love to get your response. And of course, I want to get the response of the audience, the chat. And let's get a little timeline on everything that happened with Colin Kaepernick and why I want to talk about this and why I think it's actually relative to what we're seeing today when it comes to activism as a brand. And this even goes beyond sports. Colin Kaepernick in 2016 tweeted out his disdain for what he was seeing as the unjust actions of law enforcement when he saw the extrajudicial killings of Philando Castile, Freddie Gray, Alton Sterling, and more, 2016, 2014. He was nursing an injury that season. He was on the sideline, and he did not stand for the national anthem. A reporter noticed it and asked him after the game why he didn't stand. And Kaepernick replied with, I am not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses Black people and people of color. To me, this is bigger than football, and it would be selfish on my part to look the other way. There are bodies in the street and people getting paid leave and getting away with murder. Fair response. Kaepernick, the Niners, and the NFL were not prepared for the backlash that would follow. Kaepernick was now the new face of the right-wing culture war. Before fuckable M&Ms, Kaepernick was public enemy number one. Being portrayed in right-wing mainstream media as a selfish athlete that should be lucky that he's playing a child's game and making millions. Athletes shouldn't speak on social issues, many said. And how can he be that man anyway? He's not even all the way Black. Regardless of the negative press the league and the team, and of course Kaepernick were getting bombarded with, Kaepernick did what he could to save face for himself, his team, the Shield, as they say, and most importantly, brand cap. He met with an ex-combat vet, Green Beret, that convinced him that kneeling was okay. You know, showing subservience to the flag and bowing down to your imperial overlord is totally a way to protest the loss of life that's turned the nightly news into snuff films. Kneeling. It's rebellious, yet respectful. Kneeling became all the rage with players in the NFL. Who would kneel and who wouldn't kneel was taking all of the oxygen out of the sports and even the mainstream media landscape. And even in these left spaces, that became quite a bit of the scuttle. Cap was becoming a hero, and he was kneeling his way out of the league. This passive protest was too much, and the NFL conspired to keep Kaepernick unemployed. While Kaepernick has yet to play in the NFL since the kneeling protest, Nike had no problem with his antics, signing a multi-year, multi-million-dollar deal with the sports apparel giant. Their ad campaign with Kaepernick helped Nike raise their profits by $3 billion by 2019. Also, Kaepernick settled out of court with the NFL on his collusion lawsuit for an undisclosed amount. So while people argue about the NFL being a racist and vile organization for scapegoating Cap, we can't deny that, and no one can. Cap was trying to protect himself and the league with his capitulation to kneel. Kneeling then became a bit of a brand exercise for many players in the NFL, as the anthem for a time was must-see TV. And as Capital often does, the NFL, the NBA, and so many others have co-opted any of the messaging embraced by BLM. In the aftermath of all this, rapper and business mogul Jay-Z was used to help launder the reputation of the league after the combination of kneeling players and ex-players committing suicide due to long-term post-playing brain injuries was happening. In a quote from The Undefeated about Jay-Z's partnership with the NFL, according to Jay, the kicker was the ability to bolster the league's Inspired Change program through a variety of avenues, including songs of the season, that will entail inspirational songs from a handful of artists played during television broadcasts, and the Beyond the Field, which will feature voices and perspectives of NFL players on a multitude of topics. Responding to questions about whether his partnership negates his previous support for Kaepernick, who still doesn't have a job in the NFL, Jay said that it was about figuring out the next step. I think we've moved past kneeling, and I think it's time to go into actionable items. It's a quote from the article in The Undefeated in 2019. Jay-Z's relationship with the NFL was purely financial, motivated by him becoming the curator of one of the most watched television shows, Super Bowl halftime show. So where does this leave us? Protest is merely spectacle. Negotiating with the enemy on how you should disobey seems obscene, but it's what happened, and it was applauded. Nike, the NFL, who did great ratings this season, are not fazed by this sort of disobedience. The new generation of players are brand conscious and loyal more to the dictates of the market than the people. I think this is less about one's character and more about the epoch we're currently in. All rebellions co-opted for maximum monetization. So I ask, what happens when revolutionary is just a brand?
You need to do the cheering thing now. You did a good job. No, and this is where I think we have to start at, like, in the very, the same way with like the other article that you just recently written. Is he grifting? Is he going in knowing my brand is activist?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And I think more this is sent to like type of like capitalist realism type of thing, of like a lot of people don't have an understanding of what are some of the things that I can do to change my community or the world for the better. Which there's been a lot of, like the 50-year counter revolutionary that Pascal talks about.
Mhm.
This might be a byproduct of that when you do have people who want to speak out. I mean, famous people used to say, I am an anti-capitalist and socialism is the answer. No one but people don't have an answer. Like whenever Kaepernick started, was this idea based in some type of abolitionist theory? Was there any type of actual communal service that was going in beforehand, or was it that someone who was famous got caught up in seeing the same shit that made us all very fucking upset, and like the just multiple black people getting murdered all the time on the fucking news, the black trauma porn that they're running? People have to have some type of emotional response to that. And then as soon as someone famous just decides to do something a little bit different, a little bit further than most, it's taken as some grand gesture, both positively and negatively. When in which case, like you expertly said, like what has changed?
Well, I think there's one thing that people kind of forget, and it gets a little glossed over because the conversation becomes too much about one man. And his protest became a little bit too much about one man. And in going back and really thinking about it and trying to like parse this through, having these long conversations with you and like Teray, one thing I kind of thought about was, we live in an era where young people are very, very brand conscious. Most of social media now is like Instagram. It's just branding. It's just influencers and wannabe influencers, right? So can you imagine Martin Luther King? Not even Martin. Can you imagine Muhammad Ali like meeting with the government, going like, okay, man, I want to protest because it's really good for me right now, but I also don't want the negative backlash of the protest. So what can I do in my outspoken nature? What can I say that's not going to piss you off, but still energize my base of fans? That sounds insane to say. And ultimately, and I don't think that was a conversation that Colin Kaepernick had with the Green Beret, but ultimately, when the guy was like, why don't you just kneel in front of the flag?
We kneel when fucking tell our brothers die for oil. We take a knee.
What? At no point did no one say, hey, dude, kneeling is kind of worse.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, the thing that is, and this is something too, is like, I didn't get this, but I know people younger than me, right? I remember like when Facebook came about. For people who just grow up and Facebook is something that is there, are being told, hey, the same way, look both ways before you cross the street, watch what you post online. It's that watching what you put into social media has now become regular human, teachings and interactions. Don't send people this, don't say these things, but especially don't do it online because it's forever. And yes. I think that's where I can definitely see Kaepernick just being a human being who is, just working in this, where people said, hey, you're dishonoring the troops. And like he said, well, how do I not dishonor the troops? Because I'm not supposed to put a bad facing thing online, and then
let's keep this one thing in mind, and let me get this right. And and someone said Kaepernick was already with Nike. He was with Nike, but Nike was actually, there's articles about it. They were looking to drop him because he wasn't playing. He was a Nike athlete. Colin Kaepernick's not a bad guy. And nothing I'm trying to say here is about him being a bad person. I think this is part of the problem that I have with these discussions is it always has to be good or bad. It's not a zero-sum game. Let's just examine the moment that we're in, because I think if we take a look at the moment that we're in, we can peel back for a second and say, you know, a lot of these shows that say they're leftist shows are no different than DJ Vlad bullshit and TMZ bullshit. Maybe they're slightly more woke. Why is that? Why must I look at this individual as either a good or bad person? As Marcus said, he's human, and he comes up in an era where negative portrayals of you that aren't true are going to affect your career. So meeting with the Green Beret is like a career-saving move. It didn't for his football career, but his new life in activism, you know, take that forever, however you want to take it. I don't really want to comment too much on that because he said some things that I definitely don't agree with since he's been out of the league. But when you look at the way the NFL handled his protest, and then you juxtapose that to the way the NBA handled the same types of protests from top tier stars. Now we have to also remember Kaepernick was hurt when he was doing this. The team was on a decline. There was a lot of there's just a lot of crap with the Niners during this time, and like Jim Harbaugh. And you look at LeBron James being able to wear the I can't breathe or hands up, don't shoot, whatever the fuck he had on, and moments of silence. Owners were letting players and people have huge
I remember didn't
sit-ins and shit.
Rapinoe, the soccer lady,
she kneeled.
I think she kneeled,
got a Subway deal out of it.
That was like one of the big, you know, like, and so this is where, like, when you talk about like branding and all this type of stuff, like, yeah, this where it's like people make themselves a hero in their own story, you know, but it's like this is like actual, like, this is just life, you know. This, like, you're not, but like there are people who actually get to like live out those fantasies, right? And Colin Kaepernick and I think, you know, like when they get to do this stuff, like, I'm gonna take a stand, when really, like, what is the threat? You know what I'm saying? Like, was this person ever really put himself in between cops and someone getting their ass kicked?
No. Well, I didn't see it.
You know, and this is where that's where it's like there's we've grown up in a world where doing some type of physical gesture in a moment is talked about, is seen as doing something, and so it's expected that if someone, you know, is in, you know, like this is just put in your path, you get the ability to do something, you get the ability to put your name and to say, like, yeah, like, did this guy get his NFL crew, you know, screwed over for this? You know, was that a sacrifice? Well, it depends on what you define sacrifice. Is sacrifice something where, hey, you just lost something that you had? Sure. Is sacrifice where you actually tangibly lose something? You choose to give up something that is extremely important? I don't know what Kaepernick lost, you know, in any of this, but he did gain something.
I don't really see him as a loser, but I just see this as a interesting moment where you see these things get super co-opted. So activism becomes a brand, and any sort of public displays become positive. Not all civil disobedience is like game changing, right?
Yeah.
You can shut down the freeway, and then the powers that be go, okay, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
You know, Josh.
How long can he shut this freeway down?
Yeah, we know you're going to go post selfies in like 30 minutes. So once you're done, we're going to keep doing the same shit we were doing when you shut down the freeway. I remember Josh, I was on a hike with Josh Con Russell. He told me the story about how they had shut down some sort of pipe. I don't know if it was a pipeline, but it was like something with drilling, and they had chained themselves and shut it down, and the motherfuckers had to go home, and they were all celebrating, and there were some cats that were sitting there laughing because they knew, well, once you're done, your whole shit is done. Not to say direct action is trash, but when direct action is kind of branding, because
which I would say like, yeah, I would just put it as like, no, that's just not direct action. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just like, if you know, like when I'm talking about, like, when someone says, hey, we're doing something direct action, I think, hey, like, we are, you know, people in Kansas City chaining themselves to the court doors so they can't do evictions.
That's
right.
Totally different.
You know, like that, and like really, it's like that's where I see when you say direct action, like your action is directly tangible change, right? This act is not, hey, I go to a protest to let people be more aware of something, so that they go out and then do something, right? That's the, like, just protesting, whatever, speaking, yelling, whatever, hoping, wishing, praying. But no, taking a knee, that's just protest. That's just, hey, look at me do something to bring awareness to an issue. But like I say, it's like, if this motherfucker is like, okay, now we're gonna like, I use all my millions of dollars to set up a national cop watch, where when we hear something that's going down and the cops acting up, we literally go there and try and interject in the situation. That's not where Kaepernick went. Right?
Things. We have to be honest. He's donated money to Palestine. I believe he does have a foundation where he's trying to do good work. I don't know every single thing that he has done. I'm not saying that he's doesn't believe. Again, this isn't a zero-sum game where he's either a con man or a true believer. I think you can be a true believer and then kind of caught up in, you know, the brand of you, because that's again, it's just the moment we're in right now.
Yeah, no, that's where it's like, I do think this is just very much, without political education prior to, he's always going to go, like, everybody's going to go down that path, right? Mm-hmm. If anyone's even got the courage to take the step to say, I'm going to be the outlier here, without any like real political education, most people are just going to say, hey, you know, like, end up going down this path, end up with the Nike deal, you know. And I mean, hell, like the Black Lives Matter organizers ended up with doing Cadillac and American Express commercials.
I mean, seriously, I want to take the focus away from Kaepernick, because I do think there was a lot of honesty in what he was trying to do, even though we disagree with it, right? It's the other guys that jumped on, and then that became the story. Who's going to kneel? Well, I can kneel with my helmet off. I got to get my hair done because I'm kneeling today. Cameras on me. I'm kneeling today. Yeah, now I can get that subway money.
Yeah. Hey, man, take off your earrings. No, I'm gonna be. I will after I kneel.
After I kneel. Yeah, gotta see this gold. Gotta kneel time.
Shit, man, I gotta look fresh.
Kneeling. I'm sure people were affected by it. I'm sure there's 6 degrees of separation for a lot of the police violence Cass was seeing ad nauseum, but not every hippie was a righteous peacenik. Not every black person in the 70s was a Panther.
Yeah.
So let's stop thinking everybody kneeling gave a shit.
Well, and I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's like, what does it get you, right? What does kneeling get you? And I remember, like, what year was this even going on? What year was this?
2016 is when he first started it.
Yeah. I think it might have been 2017. I was involved in like some event, you know, this has to do with like veterans and like I think the school I was going to at the time. And they started talking about, okay, like the ceremony procession, right? And like, oh, hey, come bring people in at this point, people be seated over here. National anthem plays, right? And then someone says, well, what happens if someone kneels? Right? It's like, oh my gosh, right? And I'm like, and my thing in my head was like, is this I was like, is this really the fucking question right here? And it's like, well, what if we just play it? We don't really announce it. What if we allow people, if they would say if people want to kneel? And I was like, why don't we just play the song and move on, no matter what happens? It's like I'm just out of the fucking Marine Corps, pretty fucking dumb still. And it's just these simple things of like, it's someone taking a knee. It's not an IED. They just take a knee. Great. This is supposed to be like land of the free, freedom of speech, blah blah blah, whatever. Like, but that's the thing is like with this culture war, like takes over people's brains. And
yeah. And someone in the chat, Michael McGuire says, it gets people talking about the matter, and that can lead to organizing change. Yes and no. I think what happens is that the conversation gets co-opted by the right, and you spend so much time protecting your position. So if you think about Colin Kaepernick, what he first said was, "Not going to stand for a flag where these black people." I read the quote, right? Not going to stand when cats that look like me getting murdered in the street. It's kind of fucked up. Doesn't make me feel very good about being an American. He's not even getting into imperialism. This isn't even any third worldism. He's just basically, look, just what I'm seeing on the news in the hotel rooms kind of fucking me up. And I don't really want to stand for that shit. I don't want to support that. And what then happened? You hate America.
Yeah.
They pulled out the playbook from 1967. You hate America. And here he is defending the 1967 playbook, and everybody else is defending these old tropes. The love it or leave it tropes is what people were saying. And there was an extra caveat on that because now it's like, well, you're a well-paid athlete, so what are you complaining about?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can still. So basically, you're telling me that only Bill Gates can care? Good to know. When he does something philanthropic, when he says anything important, which I don't think it's important, what's deemed important, about education, which he knows nothing about,
vaccine distribution,
which he knows nothing about, then we have to listen to him because he's wealthy. That's literally the only reason why we have to listen to him. Well, he's wealthy, ergo.
Trump,
Mark Zuckerberg. There's a ton of rich people that love telling
Elon Musk is dumb as shit. This motherfucker
he's the smartest man in the world.
It's so frustrating.
So there's a racial component we cannot deny in a lot of the right-wing pushback to any athlete trying to do a little bit more within the limitations. And you know, one thing I do want to say about market forces is when you look at the NBA and knowing their base probably a little bit better than the NFL does, the first thing they did was kind of give that olive branch to the players and go, well, just do your thing. We're not really tripping. We'll make some t-shirts for you. Let's make some Black Lives Matter jerseys.
Listen, because like at the end of the day, when this motherfucker blows the whistle, you're gonna jump, you're gonna run, you're gonna shoot. This is a thing where the NFL and a lot of these right wing people, and like just like even like the hint that they're basically just stranglehold on power, right? Is even the idea of it is threatened, right? There's a huge overreaction. And I mean, shit, like maybe there's a whole just conversation about the owners, who were the owners versus like NFL versus NBA. But really at the end of the day, like Kaepernick was doing something that in some cases wasn't even televised.
Yep.
You know, it's not a part of the game. And really, like, for the NFL, for any of these sports businesses, like, you still got them. When the whistle blows, they're gonna jump still. Kaepernick would have still jumped. All the NBA players, we got to do whatever we want to do beforehand, but when that whistle blows and that revenue starts going, motherfucker, jump. And
how high?
Right? Like
and just as another ad for what we do here at This Is Revolution, we will be talking, I think, next week, not so much about the Neil Young v. Joe Rogan v. Spotify, but more so about major corporations owning the catalogs of artists like Neil Young and how that affects music and the importance of platforms like Spotify for small artists like even myself to get heard. And again, when we talk about protest as spectacle, I've seen so many people on social media show a screenshot of their closing their Spotify account and not realizing that Spotify pays more money than the other streaming services to small artists, which unless it's Bandcamp, you're not in like doing a lot unless you are directly like Bandcamp is like the only one that really gives a good cut. Nobody goes there though, so unless you're like deleting your Spotify and going to Bandcamp, you're not really doing as much as you at least these people doing as much as what they think they're doing, right? They're not actually taking a big dig at it, you know, and that's something too. It's like I've heard from a lot of artists I've been able to talk to is that like if just a handful of people, right, like maybe a 10th of their Spotify listeners cared enough to go to Bandcamp and had the resources to do so, it would change their lives. It changed my life. I will say this. So, and I think I've said this on the show before. The music that you hear on the show, intro music, all the music for the video essays, even for a lot of the Diet Soap video essays, I do all that music because there's other shit that I like musically, but I can't play it because I'll get it taken down. So anything I put up on Spotify, they create an account for my own music to collect royalties for me, and I get kicked off of YouTube. So only putting music on Bandcamp helps me. I can sell a few digital copies of stuff, and also we can have this music that we do for the show. And I don't think people really understand, you know, all that goes into it. And also when we talk about, you know, wanting to get off a platform because of bad people, Conan Neutron brought up a really interesting point. He was like, Neil Young had no problem being played on the radio stations that were owned by Viacom when Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh and all those guys were on the same payroll. Had no problem whatsoever. So,
you know, and I guess like the only pushback I will, you know, or at least, you know, moniker is like, hey, maybe, you know, you can teach an old dog new tricks, you know. Maybe Neil Young, looking back, would say, hey, I would have made a mistake. And I mean, I think though, at the end of the day, though, it's like, how much is this really going to do? And
no one's talking
Joe
about
Rogan.
real
It had Rogan. Rogan had to like did respond. He had like, oh well, maybe I'll have some more experts on. Like I think it did, affect Rogan, in some way. I'll say in a positive way, right? But he's buried so deep underneath the shit. Like you move up 2 inches, no big deal.
And he's another voice of many shitty voices, and it's like, well, now you want to say something. Someone, Purple Flush says, I go to Bandcamp and buy vinyl records on there. There are a lot of good small bands and solo artists. The vinyl records sell out quick, though. Again, when you don't know how the sausage is made, if Taylor Swift wants to have let's not even say Taylor Swift, if Adele wants to do a limited edition vinyl run, people have to remember there's only a handful of places that are pressing vinyl. Now your project that was due to drop on a certain date, small band X, that you probably worked 2 jobs to do and did a Kickstarter for and all the other shit, because a vinyl run can cost anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 for a very small vinyl run. And if Adele wants to do a limited edition vinyl single colored records, your shit gets pushed to the way back, and now you're on a 6-month wait. That's going on with a good friend of mine right now.
Damn it, Adele.
He's got orders that people bought records he was supposed to have them at a certain time. He just got told, I can't remember the artist's name, maybe it was even Taylor Swift, they're pressing her shit right now, so he's got to wait.
Sorry, bro.
Do you refund people their money? Are people cool with you? They're like, oh,
you should tweet at her. Tweet at Taylor Swift. Do the thing where you call the manager. Go online and call the manager. maybe you get viral. Like it's like literally it's your only hope. It's like your only hope. Go viral. The manager sees it and says, "Hey, we'll press these 500 vinyls real quick and send them out, and then go back to pressing the next 30 million for Taylor." But at the end of the day, it's like, and I don't know. And this is where I'd very much like to like at least support or even hear about where like music, just independent music, being able to go back to that. Because at the end of the day, it's like you don't have Master P unless he can make physical music that he can sell.
Yeah.
And it would be cool if people would go if that is something that would be possible again. And I don't know. Maybe Neil Young making a stand is like a step towards the right direction. I don't know if you use like the app Signal. It's a messaging app, but it's open source, free, and all that stuff like that. Is it possible where there are things where, I don't know, you can get more buy-in from people, but I don't know. I feel like you're not going to get anything as long as like capitalism as a whole. You're always going to get the fuckery. So
it's going to be a deeper discussion. I think people are going to be, I don't want to say the word upset, but it's going to be one of those discussions it's going to be a bunch of musicians that run the gamut. I have friends that have platinum plaques. They're going to be on the show, and people might not like what they hear because you hear a certain angle from people that act like insiders that aren't insiders. And there's a PMC aspect to all this too.
Mm-hmm.
Much like with sports.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of protest as branding.
I do want to point out, someone was put in the chat that's like that saying that like, did Neil Young have polio? Or I don't know if it was him or someone in his family.
Joni Mitchell apparently had
or it was Joni, like that be, but like I'll say this too, that COVID-19 is not the first time the right has bought into anti-vax narrative. It's just been, this is the first time that it's been like the primary narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing, and like, and I would say too, is like, if being anti-vax, anti-medicine is upsetting, what about war profiteering? What about supporting, there's a lot which like, and that's the thing too, it's like, I'm really happy if people are just willing to say at some point, this is something that like I disagree with and I'm willing to talk about it, Like, I can respect that shit, especially too is like talking about with like Joe Rogan, is specifically, you know, saying, hey, I'm taking my music off Spotify. Is that going to be it? Is that going to fix everything? No, fuck no. At the very least, are people actually speaking and trying to actually go to the core of things? Because if Joe Rogan has to go on his little Instagram and say, hey, maybe I should actually have experts on, there's an effect that's occurring, right? There's an effect that's being, you know, forced. How far that goes, you know, and at some point it's too late, you know, as far as this specific issue, Joe Rogan, anti-vax narratives. I mean, how many more people? I don't know how many more people there is that are, you know, gonna be able to be swayed. You know, because at this point too, if Joe Rogan switches and says, hey, I was wrong, you know, all those things that I said about being anti-vax, all those things, I was wrong. I talked to the experts. Hey, you know, you should get vaccinated, get boosted, wear your mask. None of the people who bought into his narrative of anti-vax shit are going to buy in. They're still going to be 100% in the camp, and they're just going to think that Big Pharma got to Joe Rogan.
Yep. Look at Donald Trump.
Look at Donald Trump.
His own rally.
So
I mean, and this goes back to meet Colin Kaepernick with kneeling. What did Neil Young really do? Again, he didn't own the rights to half of his music. He sold that shit early in 2021 for $150 million. A lot of motherfuckers have been selling the rights to their music. There is a run right now.
It's a retirement plan.
Right. And we're going to talk about this on the 8th. I believe that show is scheduled for.
Is it like Disney? It's going to be Disney, isn't it? That ends up with like Disney owns music. Like, you just can't listen to any type of music. Hey, were you trying to play guitar? Did you pay your royalties to Disney?
I think it's more or less you get Demolition Man, if you remember that movie. Where all music is jingles.
Yes. Yeah. Every restaurant is Taco Bell.
Every restaurant is a corporation. I mean, I was talking to Teray, and we were talking about that. I was like, it's the corporate takeover that what did Chris Hedges call it? Or the corporate coup d'etat in slow motion. You're gonna look up one day and be like, holy shit, they own it all. Like, again, when you think about Jay-Z's involvement in the NFL and why he wanted to get in it, he's constantly been used as this launderer, this buffer to get things done. Oh, Jay-Z's a part owner of the Brooklyn Nets. Well, there was a real estate investor that wanted to buy the Nets just so he could get real estate built in that area that he couldn't get built before.
Boom.
Right? Because the people were pushing back against it. And do you remember the first thing that Inspire Change thing did with the NFL? Do you remember? You remember?
No, I don't. I don't.
And remember. I know we're going too long, and I'll shut up here. They were cutting off the dreads of young inner city kids.
Oh yes! Oh my god! Oh my god!
And it was a white woman that was cutting them.
Inspire change.
Remember that?
Listen here, Blackies. You just
remember that NFL was like, damn, we can't get out of our own fucking way.
Like, what the fuck were you thinking? I do want to respond to chat. Fang Duster, yes, we do respond to chat, but each chatter only gets one message to be responded to. This one is yours. See you next. We'll see you next stream. No, you say some dope shit, asking a question. But no, that's where though, like, oh my god, that's when keeping it real goes wrong, right? With that NFL shit, you know what I'm saying?
That shit, I would again. I've been trying to putting off doing all this because I knew I was gonna write this and get mad, the whole Kaepernick thing, and I'm gonna work on something tonight for that because I do want this show to really get out more. Hey, thank you, Charles. I appreciate all of this right now because this is a lot more work than we ever anticipated. But every other Monday, Marcus and I, well, it might not be me.
Hoping to get Mac in here.
It should be Marcus and Mac. But we'll be in here talking about sports from a different perspective. And I was talking to Mac the other day, and he had a guy that we were talking about having on, and maybe you've talked about this with Mac about the Olympics.
Matt.
Olympics, and they come in and just fuck up municipalities. So we're going to be talking about the goings on. We're going to be talking about the light-skinned Warriors shooting threes from the back of the arena.
That's right.
Hey, you can't talk about basketball other than the Golden State Warriors. I don't even care who they beat. Don't even talk about who they beat. Talk about
it's just
Warriors.
The Golden State Warriors and the team the Warriors played.
The team the Warriors beat. That's it.
No, it's the Washington Generals.
What about the East? There is no East.
Jason Miles, who are the top 5 basketball teams of all time?
The Warriors.
Golden State Warriors.
The Warriors. Dylan.
Oh shit.
So thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Yes, Kevin Reavers, the light-skinned Warriors. Oh, and also, you can't talk about anybody darker than Gary Payton's son.
I mean, is there?
You can't talk about a Donald Foyle. Don't talk about when Manute Bol was there. You can't talk about.
I was like, it's like a black hole gonna be sentient and start dunking on people. Is that what we got going on now? You know what? Like, I like Gary Payton.
I have a Gary Payton story that I'm gonna try to bring in Coach Will to tell this very interesting story about a university that popped up in Oakland and was asking him for kids, and they were telling him that Gary Payton was going to be the coach of this school. I gotta have Will tell the story. I'm gonna fuck it up, but you want to talk about fuckery? And I'm not saying it's Gary Payton's fault. It's bigger than GP.
Yeah,
this is some fuckery that people don't understand that happens with college athletes. That's going to be another show topic. So be ready for some interesting sports talk. Of course, we're going to be very interactive with the chat because I think sports talk is something that is an interactive conversation.
This might be a better regular call-in show as well.
I'm down to do a call-in.
Maybe if it's just like, towards the end of it, get some call-ins. I feel like if sports is a lot easier to, kind of get with that.
Are you guys down to have call-in? I'm asking the chat before I sign off.
It's easier for the audience to stay on message if the topic is sports.
Let me know if you guys stay quiet, then I'm saying no calling because remember that shit costs me money.
We know Fang Duster wants to talk. He's like, I'll call you right now. What's the number?
2. I need one more. If I get 3, then it's for sure calling.
No, Vegas like no.
Maybe.
Yeah, and I'm gonna find him and give him a swirly.
Look,
Minecraft.
Real talk. I've been talking mad shit going on 45 years now, and I've kind of got it down to a science. So I encourage people to bring it.
That's why we get along so well.
Well, all right then. So not next Monday, but the Monday after that. We're gonna have our topic, and then we're gonna do the call-in segment.
Colin Kaepernick, god damn it.
You're mean. You're mean. You're hella mean. It's a trot.
It's a trot. Oh fuck.
Well, I fucked up on the music, and I played because there's a new screen and all kind. There's so many changes in the show that I fucked up. So you're gonna end the show with the intro to the show, and I don't care. So thank you guys. See, hopefully most of you tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Marcus, when do you go live? You go live like every 5 minutes.
No, we're not streaming tonight. But I'll be back on tomorrow. Twitch.tv/leftlink. That's 2 p.m. ish. In which case I'll be covering, current news and politics, the descent of empire, all the interesting stuff.
We got a good Russia and its neighbors show this weekend with Haroon Yilmaz. Haroon's coming back. And I booked the 19th with Dan Larson, Toy Galaxy, and Dr. Michael Harris, author of Stay Alive and Welcome to the Rebellion, using Star Wars as a grand narrative for the left. He has a new book, and I have to send you the manuscript.
That's a Hunger Games one, right?
No, newer.
Oh,
this is the new.
Oh.
And the table of contents blew me away. I was like, fuck, this is going to be so much fun to talk about. But I'm going to give you a list of movies to watch for this one.
Oh, shit.
I'll just tell you, one of the chapters is like why Back to the Future predicts the decline of the middle class security.
Oh my god.
It's gonna be, and you know what the last chapter, you know what the name of the book is?
What?
Come with me if you want to live.
Oh my god. Yes.
That's the 19th. That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be hella fun.
Man, if he's got something about Predator in that movie, that's Predator's my favorite movie. But if he's got something that's my favorite just bullshit action movie. And
he doesn't. He might. He goes.
I gotta plant the seed. That's I gotta show up on the show, just plant the seed, and then all good. But I do one last plug. Tomorrow morning, I will be on the Benjamin Dixon show at 8 a.m. If you
make sure Eastern time, 8 a.m.
Eastern time, which that means I need to get to bed to make sure I can get my 10 hours of sleep.
Oh shit, I forgot how it's later where you are. Well, I will try to watch you on Ben Dixon and say nice things in the chat. About how professional you look.
I'll put a tie on tomorrow, maybe.
You put a tie on?
No.
Put a tie on.
Cool, because Ben switches it up. The first time I went on, I'm like, okay, I got a button down, I put on a blazer, Ben's there, hoodie day. And I'm like, man, you fucking, I'm out here looking like a dweeb. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I need to have I don't know, put a blazer over a hoodie. Yeah.
I say go with the tie.
Right.
Thank you guys very much. We went way longer than I thought we were gonna go. Marcus, I will see you sooner than later on the Ben Dixon show, because I do wake up at 5 a.m. because I don't really sleep. I just take naps in between editing this shit. I really do. It's sad.
It's a very healthy lifestyle.
It is very. That's why, yeah. So thank you guys. And we are